I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Silly Jedi! Silly Jedi!
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Hello, what have we here?
Hey Star Wars fans, welcome to Star Wars Car Talk, the only podcast that I think talks Star Wars in the car while driving to and fro wherever it is that we're going. To the Outer Rim, maybe to an outlying system, but we're always in the car and we're always talking Star Wars. So if you're joining us for the first time, I hope you will subscribe and also check us out on Instagram at Star Wars Car Talk and also at Jedi Toy Masters and also on YouTube. These episodes go up on YouTube as well as wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Anchor, iTunes, what have you. And please, if you're listening to us on iTunes, give us a good review. Let everybody know that, hey, that's a pretty cool little podcast over there where this dude talks about Star Wars in the car, and it's kind of nice. And I listen to him while I'm driving in the car, so it's very meta. So in today's episode, as the title probably shows, we're going to talk a little bit sequel trilogy and a little bit of some recent controversy surrounding the sequel trilogy. Now, the sequel trilogy is not without controversy. It's been like, an ongoing thing, from day one, finding out that George Lucas was going to sell Lucasfilm and Star Wars to Disney. It was very bittersweet for many of us as fans, because we were like, wow, like George Lucas is not going to be involved in Star Wars. But then there was a silver lining, which was that he sold Star Wars with the idea that they were going to use his ideas that he had written outlines for a sequel trilogy, and they were going to use those treatments for their sequel trilogy and hire writers and also have George Lucas be a consultant for these movies. So that was exciting. That was like having George Lucas do Star Wars without having the stress on himself of having to do everything and be involved in every aspect of Star Wars and running the company. So the prospect seems so great of George Lucas making Star Wars movies, but without the stress. And I think, some might argue, well, George Lucas has to be stressed out making Star Wars. That's the only way Star Wars works. He was stressed out making every single Star Wars movie from day one. And that's true. But I think as the brand has grown to this this gigantic empire, I just thought, and there was probably a lot of fans as well, that when George Lucas sold Lucasfilm and essentially Star Wars to Disney, and agreed to be available as a consultant, I thought, maybe George Lucas got to a point where he felt comfortable passing it on, and he did to some degree, because he really has said himself that having Kathleen Kennedy be president of Lucasfilm was handing it over to good hands and hoping that everything would turn out okay. And unfortunately, what he thought and what many of us thought didn't happen. It turns out it wasn't really handed off in good hands, because from day one, as these movies started coming out, as Force Awakens came out, and then Last Jedi, and ultimately Rise of Skywalker, each movie came with baggage and with more questions and answers, and at the end of the day, it was just you can see that there was poor planning, a lot of politics, a lot of agendas, and it just made for a very, I think, lackluster sequel trilogy. Now, I'm not saying that these are horrible movies that shouldn't, how dare they make money? They were entertaining movies, but when you're making a Star Wars movie, something that comes with that brand recognition, that comes with this fan base, this multi-generational fan base, I just feel like Disney didn't take it as serious, and they didn't pay the respect that it was due. Just for the simple fact that each of these movies were not planned out right. And I'm just repeating myself. I've said this in previous episodes. I went to see all of these movies. I wanted to like all of these movies, but I was left feeling a little empty with each of these movies. And like I said in the last episode, I think the sequel trilogy is like a big bowl of just, frosting with candy and cake and ice cream and all kinds of sweet, all kinds of empty calories that, upon receiving it, we just scarfed it down like the sugar addicts that we are. But at the end, we were left feeling empty and sick and nauseous. And there was no meat, there was no protein, there was no goodness. As we tell our kids, like, you can't just eat the potatoes, you got to have the veggies and the chicken too. You need the protein. And the sequel trilogy just gave us a big bowl of empty calories, which is why other movies like Rogue One, for example, and like the TV show Mandalorian, have been received with a lot of praise and admiration from the fans, because those are relying more on story and meat, so that's kind of like all I have to say as far as that is concerned. So the sequel trilogy has just been surrounded, and the shroud of the dark side surrounds it. It's just so much controversy, so many issues. But recently, one actor from the sequel trilogy has come forward, very ballsy, very brave, has basically been very frank in an interview, and has shed some light on a truth that we all, search our feelings, it to be true. We knew this was true. We just didn't want to believe it. And because it wasn't officially confirmed, we brushed it under the rug, but it was there all along. And it's the fact that they didn't plan these movies right. They didn't know what they were doing. They were doing this sequel trilogy one movie at a time, and pandering to fans and working things around it, and they just didn't have the right mindset, I think, to do this. I'm very disappointed at the fact that Lucasfilm has a story group, and no offense to those involved, but like, what are you guys doing? If you're the story group, like, what are you guys doing? Like, why isn't there, like, why aren't the directors and the writers like getting together and being creative together and coming up with this together, beginning, middle, and end? Why are we doing this? Why did we put this together one movie at a time? And it's apparent that there was just no vision. And so that was that. But now, John Boyega has come out in an interview and basically said, he feels that they basically, and you can read the interview. It's available online. I'll link it in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. I'll try to link it as well on here in the info card. But he basically says, they hired me. That they needed a black actor. They needed a black character to attract that audience, and they lied. Basically, they deceived me as an actor, and they deceived the audience and the fans by making my character out to be important, and then brushing him off to the side. And that's exactly what they did. And you can see the evidence. I mean, even in the marketing and the poster for The Force Awakens, there's Finn holding a lightsaber. In the trailer, there's Finn holding a lightsaber. And yet in the movie, he, swings that lightsaber 2-3 times, gets slashed in the back, and he's out. And then we see him again in Last Jedi, and now he's just going on a ridiculous side mission that is for nothing, that's pointless, and he's played for jokes. And then in the third one, Rise of Skywalker, again, him and Poe. You know, he's Finn. I think I accidentally said he was Poe. No, Finn and Poe are like these bumbling buddies, you know, and there's all these just quirky moments that just feel no pun intended, forced. And you know, his character, there's just nothing that happens with his character, and then they kind of force again another minority character, another black actress, to kind of give his character some kind of meaning, I guess, because she used to be a stormtrooper as well, and with this character of Jaina, and then it's not really even resolved. If it's hinted at that she might be the daughter of Lando, but then it's like, why even mention it? Why even like go there? So you're telling me this old Lando guy who was nowhere to be found in The Last Jedi when they put out that call for help, now he's all of a sudden, you know, sitting there with his cane and his shirt that doesn't fit him, and his little cape, and oh, so he's got a daughter now? Let's go find out who your daddy is. Oh wait, it's me. How you doing? Like, it's just it's just horrible. And don't even get me started on Kelly Marie Tran on Rose. Like, you introduced this character. First of all, Rian Johnson, the only reason he created this character because he must have had a friend in school or in college that he made a promise to himself, like, if I ever make a big movie, I want to make a character in honor of this person who was my quirky friend in school or college or whatever. And that's I'm assuming that's who Rose is, this quirky down and out character who has the heart of gold, you know, and nothing against, not to knock her as an actress, but that character wasn't given much, and what it was given, it was like too little too late. And then in the third one, you J.J. Abrams had to put her in there so he didn't look like a racist or somebody that didn't want her character to begin with, even though pretty obvious he didn't, because otherwise you would have put her in the first movie. And then you pigeonhole her in there in a couple of scenes, and then the relationship that was hinted at between him and her and Finn is completely dissolved in The Rise of Skywalker, and so that friendship kind of means nothing. And you know, like, it's just a big convoluted mess, and that now it's confirmed as John Boyega, the actor hired to play Finn, has come out and basically said, yeah, it was all crap. He's basically disappointed at what they did with his character and his involvement, and he points fingers, you know. He basically says, and yeah, they didn't do that with Daisy Ridley's character. They wanted her to be an important character. They didn't do that with Adam Driver. They wanted him to be an important character. You know, here we go. You know, these two actors, the two white actors, you know, the two actors that are in the middle of the story. Yeah, you pulled them all over the place, but you gave them a lot of meat in their story, even though it was also a convoluted mess. So it's very unfortunate that happens. Like, you know, who would have ever thought? I mean, you know, like when Empire Strikes Back came out, like, did anyone say like, oh, they put Billy D. Williams in this movie? What? Because they needed a black actor. Oh, like, you know, this character. No, the character of Lando was actually like a multi-dimensional character in Empire Strikes Back, and then his character has an arc, because he helps rescue Han in the next movie, and then he helps lead the assault on the second Death Star. Like, he is an integral part of the story, and it's just so unfortunate that you know, it leaves you almost speechless. And again, if you're a fan of the sequel trilogy, if you're a fan of Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, if you're a fan if you really enjoyed them, and if you really enjoyed that story of Rey and her story of being the daughter of the clone of Palpatine, and that's why she was Force sensitive, and Ben becoming Kylo and then becoming Ben again. And if you enjoyed it, okay, like that's fine. I'm not gonna knock you for enjoying that. There's a lot of bad movies out there that to my shame, I enjoy. Hey, I as a kid, one of my favorite movies as a kid was Howard the Duck. I'll be honest, I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was really funny. It was fun. I was a kid, so I didn't know any better. Now as an adult, I realize it's such a bizarre, weird movie, but I enjoyed it. Hey, I like Mannequin. That's a great 80s movie about this mannequin that comes to life. She was some Egyptian person. Anyway, I digress. There's a lot of weird movies that don't make any sense that you just like because you have an emotional kind of like attachment to them. Maybe they're connected to your childhood. Maybe you remember seeing them as a kid. Maybe there's something about it that you like. So if you have some connection to the sequel trilogy in that way, and that's fine. That's fine. Power to you. If you enjoyed them. Obviously, people did enjoy them. They made a lot of money, but again, you're talking about Star Wars. You're talking about something that's been around for 40 years. You're talking about a story that has been told so many different ways. There's so many expanded universe novels that are now legend, and so many comic books and stories, and so much built up anticipation and headcanon amongst the fans, that to think that this was the best that they can come up with is so disappointing. It was so disappointing, and it's been confirmed now because of the fact that an actor from the movie, a main character from the sequel trilogy, is like, I don't want anything to do with this movie anymore, and I'm so disappointed how it turned out. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. You can kind of read between the lines if you read the article, read the interview, but that's that. So where do we go from here? Well, the movies are done, and they don't know what they're going to do now. There was rumors of a Rian Johnson trilogy. Then there was rumors of the guys from Game of Thrones throwing their hat in there and doing a trilogy or a single movie or whatever. Now Disney and Lucasfilm have to scramble to figure out what to do next. There was an idea floating around that they would do like an Old Republic story, kind of go back. And that's I think that's almost what you have to do. You can't go forward. You can't continue a story that happens after Rey right now. It's just too soon. So, in my opinion, the best thing to do would be go back to before the prequels and tell a story that connects to the prequels, but tell a story about the Old Republic, the old Jedi. We got a glimpse of it with Qui-Gon. I feel like Qui-Gon was the last of the Old Republic Jedi. Like you can say maybe Count Dooku was before he stepped down because of the ideals. And Qui-Gon was almost on that similar path. So you can really go back to see what the Jedi actually were and what they were supposed to be. Like, I think those would be interesting stories, and the origin of the Sith, and maybe even have a young Palpatine there. I mean, since Palpatine is part of the story now, from episode 1 all the way to episode 9, hey, give us a young Palpatine being trained by Plagueis, and just let's go back. Let's go back to where it really all started, and then after that trilogy, and focus on character. Give us some good characters, some good meaty characters to care about. And then and have it hint at the events that happen in the prequels, and then years from now, after those movies have been out, then you can start working on a story that takes place 20 years after Rey defeats Palpatine, and maybe a Jedi that Rey trained, and it'll be a way for you guys to kind of start over, because what Disney did with the sequel trilogy was just not on par with what could have been. And again, if you liked it, that's perfectly fine. We all have the right to our opinions, and we're all Star Wars fans, whether your favorite is the prequels, whether your favorite is the original trilogy, or whether your favorite is the sequel trilogy. We're all Star Wars fans. there's something about these stories that resonate, and that's fine. I happen to be a big fan of the original trilogy, and a big fan of just the toys. And even with the toys, I'm a big fan of just the Clone Wars toys and the original trilogy toys. Not so much the vintage, because I was too little to collect those, but everything that's come out later that involves the events and characters from the original trilogy fascinate me. And there's still more to come. We have Obi-Wan series. We have Cassian Andor series. We have Mandalorian season 2 coming out. Who knows if there'll be a season 3 to kind of have like a trilogy seasons for the Mandalorian, maybe a spin-off from there. You know, there's the hope that maybe we'll get a solo spin-off series that tackles Maul and what happens there, you know, and maybe we'll bump into Han Solo again before he becomes the Han Solo that we meet in A New Hope. There's a lot of possibilities, you know. I really hope they go with the Old Republic angle and give us some movies, some good solid stories in that era, but we will see. That's my take on what's going on. I think I'm going to just put a nail in it and call it a day with the sequel trilogy. I really don't want to have to regurgitate my feelings on the sequel trilogy again. I think I've done enough of that on this podcast. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think should be the next logical step for the films? You know, we know that Disney Plus is a great way to kind of do like smaller stories and episodic stories. But what do you think the next feature film series should be as far as Star Wars, the next trilogy? You know, will they be episode movies? Like, should they do an episode 10, 11, and 12? Or should they go back and make a trilogy of Old Republic movies? What do you guys think? Let us know. You can email us your comments and questions at JediToyMasters@gmail.com. You can also hit us up on Instagram at Star Wars Car Talk or at Jedi Toy Masters. I check either, and submit your questions and comments. And in the next episodes, I will read the comments, I will read the questions, and we'll talk about it. So if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below. Let me know what you think. What you think of the sequel trilogy. What you think? You know, what points am I missing? And maybe you can convince me otherwise as far as whether this sequel trilogy merits more praise than it does hate. And I shouldn't say hate. I just say disappointment. It wasn't really hate. It was kind of disappointment. But it is what it is. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time,
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.